Welcome back. We started at 6 p.m. this evening with interviews, and now we are going into our regular meeting at 7. We have already stood for the Pledge of Allegiance when we started our meeting at 6. So, Madam Clerk, we're going to go right into the agenda, please.
The first item of business is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Tim to approve the consent agenda, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the submission of minutes, and we have A1, which is the special council meeting from February 24th.
Why not, if,
You want me to go through all of them?
yeah, we'll just do them
Okay.
all in one motion,
So,
unless there's objection from the council. No.
so we have the council minutes from February 24th, March 15th, March 16th, March 17th, March 18th, and March 24th.
What did we do all this free time? Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve and thank you for all the minutes. Great.
Second.
Motion made by Tim to approve, seconded by Tony, all of those minutes from all of those meetings. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Before we take to the next step, I'd like to get a motion from this council to add an agenda item for discussion purposes only. And it is to highlight the new, sorry, I'm going to get this right, the new headquarters for our Veterans Council. Chris Vitale is over there right now, and with a motion from this council, let's take a moment so we can show ourselves and the public to what's made by Mary.
Yeah,
Second.
or Tony, good.
That's okay.
Seconded by, I'm going to give it to Tim. He was there first, right? So motion made by Mary, seconded by Tim to add the agenda item that we can discuss and show the new headquarters. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right. So I told Chris that I was going to text him. We're just going to take a moment. The administrator and I were talking, yes, I'm going to say yes. I just texted Chris to tell him yes. The administrator had been, and there we go. Look at that. Look at these fine gentlemen there. So what you're looking at, or if you're at home watching the meeting right now, is Chris Vitale is there with his camera, and he is in the Burnside building. Burnside building is the front of Town Hall, if you will, the building closest to Hope Street. And that room, and I'm going to give this over to the administrator because he was the reason why most of this got done, if not all of it, and the outcome of it. So, Mr. Administrator, if you could take it from here.
Sure, and I know the veterans are there, so they're probably better able to speak about the room, but no, we're proud of the way it came out, and essentially all we did is we restored it back to what we see in old pictures of its original version. So underneath the layers of flooring, we found the original 1892 floor, which we resurfaced. We brought back the transom lights over the windows, and we just cleaned it up and took away the old drop ceiling and paneling. And hopefully they'll be there for 100 years or longer.
I got to tell you two things. Like a veteran usually explains his hard work. That is an understatement of how that building looks, and that's an outstanding job. So maybe we can take a moment, gentlemen, if you could share your thoughts over there. You look comfy, number one, and you look very classy too. So
We certainly are comfortable. This is an absolutely stunning and awesome office. We'd like to thank the town council, the town administrator, the town of Bristol for caring for us veterans. And thank you so much. As Chris just spanned the room a little bit, it really is something to see, and feel free to drop in anytime or come by and take a look. Even after your meeting today, take a walk over and see it. It really is just amazing. We're so proud of it. It's so respectful, and it's right here at the War Garden. And just can't thank you all enough. I know
Walter, could you introduce yourself and the gentlemen that are sitting around you?
I am president of the Bristol Veterans Council, Walter Coelho, Wally Works. To my right here is Larry Matika, he's our treasurer. Steve Scuba is our service officer. Armin Pereira is our junior vice. Our newest member, and everyone knows Dick DeVault, if you live in Bristol. Colin Kovic, our vice president. And Joe Denise, our secretary, our recording secretary. And again, we have a few of our members that didn't make it here tonight. It's still in this COVID context, I guess. But hopefully we're gonna start meeting fairly regularly again. And we'll be able to move forward. We've got some projects out. We have the Bristol, the Memorial Day Parade that we were just discussing and how we're gonna do it. We're gonna start at I'll let Carl explain that. Go ahead, Carl.
If we can do this, the parade is going to begin at 9 o'clock at the North Burial Ground. We're going to have just say a few words, and we're going to lay the wreath and have a cannon salute. And then the parade's going to go down to the Veterans of Foreign Wars on 850 Hope Street. And we will lay another wreath there, and then continue on to the War Garden down here, where we're going to lay a wreath and have a little cannon salute and say a few prayers and play taps naturally. That's it. Just short and sweet, but we're going to do it anyway.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Steve, Mr. Administrator?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the room is more than appropriate for the veterans. It's handicap accessible, and it's right by the War Garden. And a couple of notes I want to acknowledge. Richard Capuano, who went out and he scavenged some old captain's chairs, and he's been painting them and donating them. So I don't know if Chris can take a photo of those, but those are, thank you, Rich Capuano. And also Constitution braided rug in Bristol donated a rug, which is there. It's a very large rug that matches the room, and he donated that to the Veterans Council. So thank you, Russ Carrion at Robin Rug.
And from this council, this administrator, this clerk, and the people of Bristol, thank you, gentlemen and men and women, the veterans, for your service. This is one small thing that we can do, and we can never repay you for what you've done, but we'll continue to try. So
You guys support us all the time, and we truly, truly respect and appreciate everything you folks do for us as well. So thank you for your service as well to the town of Bristol and to all of us veterans.
Might want to.
Steve does have a sign that we're going to.
Steve.
oh, look
Oh,
at this.
nice.
Veterans Information 401-787-6763 for benefits, healthcare claims, death and survivor benefits. Excellent.
Very nice.
Very good.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
It's a nice room, yeah. You did a nice job.
So drop it, check it out. Yeah.
Yes, I had an opportunity to go there and look around. Please take a moment when you have the time. The administrator pointed out to me as we were walking back out, there's a picture right before you leave on your right, and it's that room from 1860 something. So it's outstanding, just seeing it back to its former glory. So outstanding.
Is the table that they had there was one that was an accomplishment? No, they had their own there?
No, that table was in the basement of the police station. I think it made its way from Court Street up there.
Oh, there you go. See that picture right there?
Yeah.
That's a picture of that room, the way it used to be and now how it looks again.
So,
Cool.
And that's right over
That's
there.
awesome.
So
yeah, that's cool. And those were our forefathers, believe it or not, they
there it is.
counterparts from Al long ago.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so no action necessary because it was just a discussion item. So we can move forward, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is C1, and this is ordinance 2021-3. And this is to add 4 one-hour parking spaces on Wood Street, and this is the second reading for adoption.
So a couple of points of clarity. This council had asked some questions about the parking spaces across the street from where this was proposed. To remind everybody, this would be on the food pantry side, right? So on the other side, we wanted to make sure, and this council had asked those questions about, to make sure that there was consistency with those 1 hour parking, 2 hour parking. So this ordinance, and in speaking with the administrator today, and please clarify if I'm wrong here, but that all 4 of these spots would be 1 hour spots. So there would be consistency on that corner.
That'll really help with the congestion over there in the pantry. Had talked about as well.
I hope so. Yeah.
So I think it'll be very helpful.
Chief, was there anything you wanted to add, sir?
Sure.
Okay, you are very verbose this evening. Thank you. What's this council's pleasure?
We move to approve it.
Second.
Motion made by Tony to approve, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item C2, and this is ordinance 2021-4, and this is in regards to yard waste compost. And this is to increase the tipping fees from 0.025 to 0.035, and this is the second reading for adoption.
I understand that the water pollution superintendent is on the call, right? Jose De Silva is.
He's calling by phone.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, Jose. Jose, just real quick, the
Hi.
change, the reason for the change and generally how we sit in the community as a cost on here.
Sure. This would be the increased cost to landscapers and such that do bring it in. They operate as a business. Our fee is low compared to our neighbors, but our costs have been increasing. That should bring in an additional $20,000 to our department. And what it will do, will still be less than our neighbors, but unlike our neighbors, we use the material on site. We're not hauling it up to the Johnston landfill for disposal. And as you remember, my head of DPW did tell you the cost of hauling to Johnston. We're not doing that, so we will be raising it, asking for this raise. It'll help defray the cost of our operation and shipping. Yet it'll still be below because we're not bearing the cost of shipping it to, transporting it to Johnston.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions for Jose?
You're welcome.
Yes, Jose?
Yes.
Yes, the question is, how well are we do with marketing the compost?
We are marketing it through AgriSource. They are taking it. We're doing fairly well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else on this council? What's this council's pleasure?
Motion to approve the second reading for adoption.
Second.
Motion made by Tim to approve, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, Jose.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman.
Have a good night.
You too.
There's a delay.
And members of the council, the next item on the agenda is C3. This is ordinance 2021-5, and this is to amend the beach fees, and this is the second reading for adoption.
Mr. Administrator, I understand that Tim Shaw is on the call. I'd like, if we could, Tim, I don't know, you can hear me. Okay, great. Tim, could you just kind of what Jose did real quick is that the rationale behind the increase, who it's affecting? I know that some were, for example, veterans were excluded from this, maybe some other examples of that. If you could, please.
I'm not writing that.
That a kitty?
Tim, I don't know if you have a voice filter on right now, but you sound very strange.
Mickey Mouse.
It may be it sounds like a technical issue.
Is Walter on? Walter, yeah, see if you can.
I am.
Oh, hello. Hello, Walter Burke. My goodness.
Hello.
My goodness. Long time no here. So, Walter, are you familiar with the proposed changes?
Am I familiar with what?
The proposed changes for the beach fees?
No, I'm not yet.
That's okay. I know it was something that was just done recently. Mr. Administrator, anything that you want to share on this?
Sure. So the purpose for the increase, unfortunately, Tim is not, we're not able to reach him, but we found that our fees are considerably less than our other communities that have similar facilities, which is a beach, shower facilities, concession, and all the picnic tables, a shelter, and everything that is available there, lifeguard that's on duty. So our beach fees are considerably less than other communities that have the same facilities. Last year, things got, considerably more expensive to operate. In fact, we actually had to hire a special detail because it was getting so busy there. So the good thing about this is although they are going up modestly, it's still free for seniors, it's free for veterans, and a season pass for Bristol residents is $20. So the best deal here would be to get a season pass if you're not a senior. Seniors are 62 and over in this instance, so seniors will continue to be free.
And if I may, just a couple of quick things is that the fee was $3 for a resident for 1 day, and now it's $5. Non-residents was $6, now it's $10. So as the administrator pointed out, it's modest increases, but certainly if you use the beach a lot, then please get a season pass. It's much less expensive for you, and certainly beneficial. So thank you. And I know that Tim tried to answer the question, but what we were hearing sounded like helium.
Yeah.
Right? Is that a nice way to put it? Excellent. All right. What's this council's pleasure?
Make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Motion made by Tony to approve, seconded by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F1, and this is a petition from Mary Pinarello from 11 Cottage Street, and this is a request for removal of accessible parking space. This is the first reading. I do want to note there's a late item with a recommendation from the town administrator and the chief of police.
Mr. Administrator, because it was a late item, was that a recommendation to concur, to remove?
To approve.
To approve, okay. What's this council's pleasure?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve it.
So for first reading.
I mean, for first reading, yeah.
Got it.
I'll second the motion.
All right. Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim. This constitutes first reading. Any discussion?
Just very briefly, very appreciative that she's doing that. I believe there may be one more on the street. It certainly helps with the parking situation, especially in the narrow street, and no parking spots are all through, so this allows for additional parking.
So you're acutely aware of Cottage Street then, is that correct?
A little bit,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is agenda item F2, and this is Michael and Dawn Mendonca of 164 Wood Street. And this is a request for paving in the vicinity of residents. Here, we also have 2 late items. One is a recommendation from Director of Community Development, Diane Williamson, Ed Tanner, the zoning officer, and a late item from a recommendation from the Department of Public Works.
So I had actually initially thought that we were going to continue this item because we didn't have recommendations on it. But I understand, as the clerk just pointed out, that that Diane Williamson and Ed Tanner went out today to look at it, and also Public Works has also looked at it. Diane, are you on the call?
They both approved it.
Yes, I am.
There you are. I'm going to always comment on the background. I like the background. So
Thank you. That was,
so the request, and we want to hear certainly from the petitioner, but the request was to pave a portion of the road, not the portion of the road, portion in front of the residents. Could you speak on that real quick? And I'm going to ask the petitioner to talk about their petition.
sure. And I did speak to him today, and Ed Tanner did go out and he met the residents and did a site visit. And this lot is on the corner of Wood Street and Cole Street. And the frontage along Cole Street is an area where there's already some disturbed soil, sort of compacted, and it appears that it is an area where folks in the neighborhood park on the street. The petitioner would like to plant grass, put a berm and plant grass for about 20 feet along that street side from the stop sign. And that would be pretty much along the extent of his porch. And then beyond that, for a distance of, I believe, 50 feet, he would like to put pavement, and that would be really to accommodate the on-street parking that is occurring there with folks in the neighborhood parking along the edge of the pavement. So we went out, Ed looked at it, reported back to me, and I also spoke to Mr. Mendonca, and we saw no reason to object to this petition, subject.
Boy, we're having a few technical issues here this evening. Diane, I don't know if you can hear us, but we lost you.
To a couple of conditions, one being sure the town were to do any improvements there, the owner.
It'll happen
You should go off
sometime.
and come out, yeah.
So I'm going to ask the
Owner would
petitioner to come-
relinquish the ones.
Yeah.
So we just wanted it to be clear. Those, can you hear me?
We lost you there for a second, and you paused for about 30 seconds, actually.
Okay, so what I was saying was that we saw no reason to object to this petition, subject to a couple of conditions, one being the DPW inspection. And the second being that since Mr. Mendonca indicated he would be willing to pay for these improvements, we just wanted it on the record that if the town ever does any upgrades there, sidewalk or additional curbing, that the improvements would be potentially, removed with a town project in the future.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Diane. We're probably going to come back to you, but is Michael Mendonca or Dawn Mendonca on the call?
Yes. All right.
Michael. We can't hear you. You're muted.
How's that?
That's perfect. If you could start off by stating your full name and address for the record.
Sure, it's Michael Mendonca. It's 164 Wood Street.
Thank you. And if you notice that our eyes are not looking at you, it's because the way the monitors are set up here right now, we're looking at you at TV screens that are off the camera angle. So
No problem. No problem.
so Diane, I asked Diane to start so she could give a nice synopsis. And I had started off also by saying that I thought this was going to be continued because we didn't have recommendations, and I didn't want to take your time if we didn't have the information we needed. But Diane was able to go out today and take a look at it, and her recommendations that we should move forward. But could you share in your own words why you'd like to see this happen, please?
Well, we basically bought this property in October and it needs a ton of work. We've just recently moved back into Bristol. I was born and raised in Bristol. And the property does need quite a bit of work, but due to the project that we're trying to improve on outside, vehicles do park on that side of the road. The DPW did offer to plant grass and put some loom there, but I just think it's going to be another issue in another year or two because people are going to park right on the grass. So I do have other landscaping that's going on in the next 2 weeks. And that was going to be part of the project where we would pave a portion of that. So if people do park on it, it's not destroyed and it looks nice. And on the front portion, we're going to plant some sod on the front half of the porch.
And Michael, you understood that when Diane had shared her thoughts that if the town were to make changes in the future, you were aware of what if we follow those recommendations.
I have no problem with that because if the town's going to do something, they're going to improve it in my eyes. So I have no problem with that.
Perfect. All right, council?
I have no objection, so I move to approve it.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Tony to approve, seconded by Tim. Any discussion?
No, I think that's the point that I read in the DPW, that they send it back so that they can monitor the project to make sure they use the right materials.
So,
I'd like to include that.
so that motion, so if I may, yes, so the motion is that we would follow the recommendations from Community Development Director Diane Williamson along
And the Director of Public
and
Works.
Director of Public Works, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. And now a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Oh, wait, one moment.
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair.
I'd also put in the motion that if the town does put sidewalks in, that the improvement would be replaced.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Perfect. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck, Michael.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Thanks.
The next item on the agenda is G1, and this is for public service appointments. And we have G1A. This is Fire Chief DeMello with his recommendation for the Board of Fire Engineers for 2021 to 2022.
I move that we approve the Board of Engineers as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Mary, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is G1B, and this is from the Bristol Housing Authority. We have Patricia Sardinia with a letter of resignation.
To accept Patricia's resignation with a letter of thanks.
Second.
May I also add to that that we would go out and advertise for the opening on that position?
Good call. Yes.
Certainly. All right, so we had a motion and a second to accept resignation with a letter of thanks and to advertise. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is H1. And this is Town Administrator Contenti in regards to the police department update concerning a petition for Barbara English on Bayview Avenue about a noise complaint. And this is referred on September 30th, 2020.
So we discussed this back on September 30th with a review time to come back in front of us today. Mr. Administrator.
Chief Lynch is on and he'll give you an update.
Chief Lynch.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the council. Yes, certainly, we have followed up diligently on Mrs. English's petition relative to the noise complaint from speeding motor vehicles, predominantly motorcycles with excessive noise coming from their muffler system. I'm sure some of you folks on the council have seen repeatedly, we've had what we call in the police department the message board. That's the trailer that posts the speed limit. We also installed the noise ordinance signs. Some of you may see them coming up eastbound on Bayview Avenue. You will see them posted by High and by Wood Street, which clearly depicts the town ordinance section 16-2C, strictly enforced. Officers have gone out on copious occasions to conduct follow-up traffic education and enforcement. Since this came in front of the council, we've had 37 separate traffic posts and assignments at that location. We stopped over 45 motor vehicles. We've issued 44 violations. 44 warnings, issued 19 citations. And we've also been out there 19 times and had no actions. We have diligently, we've also gone out and on Wood Street, where anywhere that there was posted a speed limit sign, we also incorporated strictly enforced signs to bring home the enforcement and garnering compliance to work on that area. Just this week, I've ordered another round. We got money from the traffic highway safety and officers. It's been loaded into our system where officers will be going out continuously now that the motorcycle season is upon us with the warmer weather. It is a challenge. I want to let the council know, it's a blend of a commercial and a residential neighborhood. There's a steep incline on Bayview Avenue. So when the commercial vehicles and the cars and the motorcycles accelerate, it does produce louder exhaust noise. But it is something that we're keeping our foot on the gas pedal about. We've reached out to the DMV and the DOT when they do their traffic enforcement for inspection type posts. We'll be doing that to enforce the motorcycle, loud motorcycle enforcement, because a lot of those modified exhaust systems violate the emissions and it subjects them to what we call a notice and demand or a 5-day tag to come into compliance. So there's much more work to be done. The work is not complete. It's ongoing. And it's day to day. It goes some weeks, some posts, it's silent, and other times there are violations. So I remain committed to resolving the problem and delivering the best outcomes possible.
Chief, thank you for your due diligence on this. You've obviously, you and your officers have put a lot of effort and time into it to address it. Thank you. Questions and comments on the council?
I would just make a motion to receive and file, however, with a big thank you to the chief and the police department. And let's continue to monitor, as the chief pointed out, they'll be keeping an eye on the situation to make sure that we don't, it doesn't get reversed, or we return to the usual.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. But I also just wanted to make a quick comment. I mean, I think this is an ongoing issue, is an ongoing problem that we've addressed over and over again. And just to point out, this goes on at quite a few of the intersections. I know it goes on at State and High, I'm sure Church and High, Wood and State, all of them on a regular basis, particularly as we get into like May and June. And so this may be, you know, because of the incline of Bayview, this may be the worst. But if we can just keep an eye on all these places, because it can be very distracting for people that are living on those corners.
Good point. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the memorandum of understanding between the town of Bristol, Bristol Police Department, and the Friends of Bristol Animal Shelter. And this is referred from February 24th. And I'm sorry, this is item H2.
So I know that there was a lot of efforts by the police department, by the Friends of the Animal Shelter, by the administrator to put together this memorandum of understanding. I don't know if you, Mr. Administrator, or you, Chief, wanted to speak to this to start off, but I know that this council says thank you for the efforts and energies that both, I don't want to say sides because we're all on the same side, that both parties put into this to get to this next step. So thank you. Administrator, Mr. Administrator.
Sure, I can open up, and I believe there's a representative from the Friends on the call at the meeting. But yeah, we did have several meetings with the Friends and the police department and myself, and we're very pleased that we've come up with an agreement that's in the best interest, what we believe is in the best interest of everyone involved. The key parts of this are the interstate adoption item. There's 14 items here altogether in the MOU. But the interstate adoption, what we worked out there was that ultimately, the police chief or his or her designee has final approval as to how many and when the animals would be brought into Bristol from outside of the town. What will be taken into consideration is the staffing levels at that time, funding, availability of volunteers, and also what was talked about and put in writing is that the cost of the interstate adoptions would be the responsibility of the Friends. They raise money for that. And we think it's a good thing to have a good adoptable dog population in the shelter for, you know, residents or visitors that are looking to adopt. So we believe it's a good thing. Original reluctance was we just didn't feel as if it should be the responsibility of the people of Bristol for outside animals from outside the town of Bristol. But we're satisfied that it's in writing that it's not the intention to have every kennel filled with a dog from outside the town of Bristol. And we're gonna, you know, start slowly. And again, the MOU does say that this is a 1-year agreement, so we could revisit it after a year. So I would say that the council at that point, after a year, you revisit it and determine if it's working. The other significant item that we spent a little bit of time on was access to the building. So the Friends would have access to the Humane education room. The access to that section of the building would be granted through the animal control supervisor. But they would have access for, you know, after hours education programs or whatever programming they have in that room. Where the animals are kept, we do have some concerns about safety of the volunteers. So that would not be accessible after hours by the volunteers only. Obviously, if there's emergency or circumstances that would be waived, but generally on a daily basis, that would only be for town employees and volunteers. So these are things that we all discussed, and I think it was a very productive and healthy series of meetings. And I think we're at a good place at the shelter with this MOU. And the chief is here, and then I would really like to hear from the Friends and invite any questions that you might have.
So I'm going to ask that, since we've heard from the administrator, I know that I just confirmed with Chris that we have representation from the Friends. I'd like to give them an opportunity to share their thoughts on the MOU, and then I will open it up to council for questions and comments. Is there someone, I knew there was someone from,
There's 3 on, I just don't know which one.
so if someone from the Friends could raise their digital hand, if you will. Perfect. Are they on? Hello.
Hi,
Hi, so if you could state your full name and address for the record, please.
Kate Williams, 19 Waterman Street in Bristol.
Thank you, Kate. So wanted to get your thoughts. You've heard the administrator share his take on the MOU and our initial one. What's your thoughts on it?
So we worked really hard on the MOU. We've spent countless hours on it as a group as the Friends. And our meetings with the chief and Captain Burke and the town administrator were very productive. We were able to come to agreements on many of the items that the town administrator shared with you. And I think it is important just to know that our main goal is not to fill the shelter entirely, but to provide an adoptable animal population to the town of Bristol. Adoptable animals are something that people need and want right now. And that is something that using this MOU, we could provide.
Thank you. Council.
I just thought it was, I thought it was very, very well done. This MOU I was very impressed when I read through it. I think it touched on a great many of the issues that, and came up with a solution to many of the issues that have issues that have been concerns in the past, I guess I would say. The only thing that I just have a question about, and I'm happy to take this just as it is, so I just want to know where we stand in relation to the surrender policy. I did have a conversation with one of the Friends. So I know that it's something that didn't make it into this MOU, but is something that I believe you're still working on. Is that correct?
The surrender policy is not something that the Friends can change. I believe it is something that the town is able to change in collaboration with the chief. But that is not something that we are able to change.
Chief, did you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, and I think I responded the last time that we discussed issues at the shelter. I certainly want to thank all of the people affiliated with the Friends for their collaboration and their understanding to get to this point to establish this MOU. We have discussed internally with the ACO supervisor about the surrender policy. And, she has had grave concerns to avoid that particular policy for the town of Bristol. We do host a university, and there are grave concerns that, some of the students will engage in adopting an animal, and at the end of the semester, turn the animal back in. We have a robust policy. Just like the Friends, there are many volunteer groups that work extremely hard to make sure that an animal that a family can no longer care for, whether they're moving or there are other circumstances that exist, somebody has to go into long-term care or a short-term illness. There are a lot of programs, and we do not turn anybody away. We work diligently with any resident of this town to find a home for a dog. We just don't have an open door. And I did ask this question. They are unaware of any other shelter in the state that has that type of a policy. I will say that on emergency situations where a person had to go into some type of medical care or short-term basis, we have not turned a resident away during an exigent circumstance. So we will modify. We're flexible when it comes to that for Bristol residents. We want to attempt at all costs. It would be my recommendation. I certainly take direction from the town leadership and the administrator, but it would be my recommendation not to have a blanket turn-in policy, sir.
I think I just think that it's an important issue to keep in the forefront because, as you said, being a college town, and one of the issues, and it's gotten much better, but one of the issues that we had for a long time were cats, more so than dogs, being turned out on the street and with, huge cat colonies. And we've really gotten those under control here in Bristol. And that was through a lot of hard work for a lot of people, Paws Watch in particular. And I don't want us to ever return to that. And I don't know if it's somewhere along the line, it needs to be stated that it's on a case-by-case basis, because it's just, I think somewhere needs to be stated clearly what it is. Because when you talk to people and you ask about it, they will say it was a sort of case-by-case basis. I'm just not sure that should, I think that somewhere that should be in writing, perhaps. So I don't want to belabor that point right now, but I think it's important to note that some of the council members are concerned about that issue and just want to stay on top of that. I think this is excellent for a great document. I was so happy when I read it. And I think that I'm hoping that after the first year, because this is just 1 year, that this will go to a multiple year and not have to come as an annual thing for approval of the council.
I agree with that. I think after the year, if we find success here, then maybe a 3 to 5 year review on it at that point in time would be appropriate. What else from the council? Tony.
Okay, Tony. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Overall, first of all, thank you to the Friends of the Animal Shelter, for all that you've done over the years and to help bring about the new facility that we have there. Understood, and I was around when that was happening as administrator, so I understand how much work. I remember going across the hall to the many meetings that were held there with the chiefs, John, and the committee. So I certainly can appreciate that. I think the document overall is a very, very good document, and certainly I'll be voting in favor. However, I take a little issue with the statement that is in the open statement here, a short sentence that's there. It says this MOU is inclusive of the Friends of the Animal Shelter in consideration of the substantial financial support contributed to the construction of the shelter and other contributions made by the Friends in support of the shelter operations and the partnership with the town. But specifically that, we all can be in debt to somebody for doing something. I can think of it when I was president of Bristol Youth Soccer. When I left the board, there were $25,000 that were left there, and it was not me, it was the board collective effort. I didn't go back and remind them of how often, how much money we left in the coffers, and say, this is what you should or should not do. So I have a little bit of an issue that we as a council, this body has a responsibility going forward to sort of address, the financial part of it. And obviously this hopefully will be one of the pieces. We invested $2 million of a bond that was approved by the residents of Bristol as a whole, 4 million. Okay, so I'll take that back.
I hear 5. No.
Okay, so, to be reminded that you've done, it's wonderful and it's very appreciated. Yes, maybe we missed a point at the beginning, in January that maybe should have been included in the conversation. However, for this to come back over and over, I have a bit of an issue to be reminded that, we've done this. Many people have done things in the community and we don't need to be reminded over and over. It is our responsibility as elected officials. And I'm sure if the residents don't feel that comfortable, I'm sure they'll speak in the election time. Thank you.
Yep, just gonna comment. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the Friends. I know how hard you all work on this, and I think the MOU is great. I also have to give kudos to the town administrator and the chief of police for really working hard to solve a problem. It's called, the goal was to increase the utilization of that shelter. And it's great that we've all been able to come to some sort of stepping stone to move forward. So I'm really happy about the MOU and where we're moving forward on that. The town administrator addressed my issue. I had a question on the access to the facility, and you addressed the after hours. And I was nervous about the risk of any, potential volunteer just being exposed and the town being exposed, but you addressed that. So that is good. I do have just a question, not necessarily with the MOU, but in regard of the trained volunteers. And this is a question for the Friends. What do you mean by a trained volunteer? What does that entail?
So a volunteer coordinator we've appointed one in the event that we move forward. And we have a volunteer handbook that we are following with descriptions of how volunteers will be trained so that they understand the layout of the facility, the safety measures that they should be taking when they are there, and what their jobs actually are while they're there. We want volunteers to feel utilized, and so we want them to know what they are to be doing when they are present at the shelter.
Okay, so
Did I answer your question?
You said there's a handbook?
We are creating a handbook right
Creating a
now.
handbook,
It's in the
okay.
works. It's in the process, and that's kind of like the layout of what would be in it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, everybody, this is Aaron Lay. I don't have too much to add here beyond what my colleagues have said. I think what I really like to see here was this, kind of this public-private partnership between the town and the Friends. And it was really nice to see stakeholders from all around coming together to solve problems. And it's really exciting to see that. I think that we have a starting point now, and I'm really curious and optimistic about where this is going to go from here.
So at the appropriate time, I would like to second this motion. And I'm saying second.
Do we have a motion?
No, to make a
Oh, okay.
it needs to be made, but Tim has worked really hard on this with the group. So but I would love to second it at the appropriate time after it's made.
Well, that feels like a layup. Go ahead. Sure.
That's an alley-oop right
I was
there.
ready to do that like at the very beginning. but-
And I'll make the motion to approve the MOU as stated.
I'm not a soothsayer, but
I'd
I'm
like to say
guessing that
second.
there it is, right there. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Ursillo
Yes.
from High Up Above.
Ah, yes.
I just have one minor suggestion. In paragraph 10, which references the interstate rescue animals, and that there's a sentence at the very bottom that talks about the Friends will have the responsibility for that program. I'd like you to insert the word sole in front of responsibility. So it would read, interstate rescue effort would be the sole responsibility of the Friends.
Tim, any objection to that?
No objection. So
Mary? Okay, so we had a motion and a second restated. Discussion, other discussion? My 2 cents is I was pretty clear in the last meeting that I had issue with bringing in animals from other communities because I don't believe that's taxpayer responsibility. I do believe that after speaking with the administrator and the chief, that they've helped me see past that. And I believe that this MOU speaks to it. And Chief, you said it a little bit, and I just asked you to restate it, is that we're going to walk into this slowly and there is no financial responsibility to the taxpayers as clearly stated here. I'd also like this council on a yearly basis to review this as part of our budget, not as a special meeting, but just we will hit that in particular when we go over the police department's budget, just to make sure and confirm that it's revenue neutral, if you will. So, but hats off to both of you, because I was not in a place where I wanted to get there, but it's not because I don't believe in adopting animals. I've done it now 6 or 7 times. I have a lot of belief in it, but I didn't see it as taxpayer responsibility. But this, I think, covers that. And Chief, your goal, along with the Friends, is to start slowly, correct?
Correct. We discussed that very point at issue, and the point that the solicitor just made, that the Friends do accept sole responsibility for financing and budgeting. We had great concerns of what can the shelter handle. We have a very small full-time staff. So there's always going to be the need for care of the animals after hours. And there is always, areas of cleanup, maintenance of the facility. So I have agreed to take baby steps as I learn more about out-of-state adoptions, and we will bring in 2 animals at a time and look at, the needs of those particular animals, the care that's needed for those animals, or in any type of behavioral work that those animals might need, so that we all can learn about the process and we can have successful outcomes. So the process will start slow, and we will begin to see what is acceptable for our shelter, the staff that we have, the qualified volunteers that have been onboarded. And we certainly will provide the council with a report when the MOU comes up at the 1-year mark.
That's a beautiful facility, paid for majority by the people of Bristol, and of course by a lot of hard work by the Friends. And it seems inappropriate not to utilize it more than it is right now. So any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you all for your hard work too.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is item I1. And we have Director of Community Development, Diane Williamson, in regard to the Harbor Management Plan update. It's been revised and a recommendation by the Harbor Commission.
So Diane, this took up the majority of our packet, but I understand it's just a small little tiny thing that we need to discuss. So
Right, it's a formality, and I just want to also say Greg is on this call, and I want to thank Greg for helping me get this reviewed again with the Harbor Commission and for all his help on these edits working together. So the council actually adopted this plan in 2019, and after you adopted it, it is reviewed by the state agencies, in particular a DEM. They review it with an eye towards water quality improvement and water quality conditions. So it took them a while to get back to us. And then it took us a while to get the edits in front of the Harbor Commission with COVID. So we are finally here with the revisions. The water quality department at the Department of Environmental Management requested edits to the plan, most of which were somewhat administrative. But the one substantive one that I did want to call to your attention tonight is their requirement for the town to add another pump out facility. Due to the density of boaters, and there's a formula that they use to decide how many pump out facilities you need. And based on that formula and the number of boats that Bristol sees, we need another pump out facility. And I do know that the harbor master, Greg, is already working on moving forward with that. So so that's really the big change in this document since you had seen it previously. And as was mentioned, the Harbor Commission met, they reviewed it and recommended approval. And so I am asking if you could adopt it tonight, and then we'll send it back to the state to show them that we've made and adopted the edits that they recommended or required rather. And then we'll hopefully get an approval for this plan.
So move that we approve the harbor management plan. Adopt it.
Second.
motion made by Tony to adopt, seconded by Tim. Discussion? I'll just add that thank you to Diane, to the Harbor Master Greg Marsili, to the Harbor Commission and Harbor Advisory Committee for their hard work to get us to this spot. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is I2, and this is a council resolution in support of the police assistance for the 4th of July events, and this draft legislation attached.
Mr. Administrator.
Sure. Thank you. So what this is a resolution, and we're trying to get the Honorable Town Council to support our endeavor to allow police officers from outside of the town of Bristol, but within the state of Rhode Island, to work our 4th of July events. It's been a little bit difficult to get enough staffing for specifically the parade, the fireworks. In the past, we've had to rely on Massachusetts, which has created some illegal difficulties. But the Sheriff's Department in Massachusetts has been helping the town of Bristol for quite a few years now. And at any given time, that agreement, if there's a change, if the sheriff in Massachusetts happens to retire or move on to another position, we're not so sure if that effort will continue. So this would be able, this resolution would be in support of a bill to the General Assembly allowing officers from outside the town of Bristol to work here in Bristol only for 4th of July special details. And that's the ultimate goal here, is to provide, safe events and provide law enforcement capabilities if needed. So the chief is here to speak on behalf of that. He's been working on this since he came here to serve in his capacity. And it's something that's very important to us. Currently we have a mutual aid with Warren in Portsmouth, but this would allow on that holiday weekend officers from the other departments to come in, which is really much needed. So chief may have some additional comments.
Chief?
Yes, I've been working with the solicitor also on an MOU with the Rhode Island Sheriffs, which fall under the Department of Public Safety, i.e. the state police. So we're looking at a short-term or even kind of a safety net if this bill doesn't make its way through the General Assembly. So I immediately went to work with the Chiefs Association and garnered all of the Chiefs Association support and Colonel Manny from the state police. We originally introduced a bill, House 5815, to expand what we call emergency police powers. So currently, as the administrator eloquently put, the town of Bristol or any municipality is able to get police services for non-emergencies from their adjoining community. You have to be attached to the community. During an emergency, we can go anywhere in the state of Rhode Island. But during non-emergencies, the law restricts police, municipal police, from reaching out past its boundaries. And this would certainly just be for the 4th of July committee events. The bill that I introduced and testified, which has been held for further study in the House and Municipal Government and Housing Cooperations Committee, it was tethered with a request from the University of Rhode Island. They had the same type of situation as Bristol does at 4th of July during college commencement, or some of the large venues that they bring in for concerts and different things of that nature. So when I went up and testified, the bill got a little sideways when some of the folks on the committee thought that it was going to intertwine with freedom of speech issues, sit-ins at colleges, after spending 10 years testifying on bills for the Public Utilities Commission, I do not see a clear path that the 5815 bill is going to be successful in passing. So I thought the next best step would be to break it down, make it esoteric to Bristol. Certainly, everybody in the state enjoys the functions of the 4th of July committee. It's viewed more as a community policing type event. And in the current climate of police reform, I really thought that this bill was more palatable for successful passage in the General Assembly.
So Chief, I had the opportunity to do a little research on the bill that you just spoke of and was disappointed to hear that it did stall, and the rationale given behind it, I did not concur with. I will say it like that. But I'm confident that our local reps and senators would support this, understanding the need for public safety, understanding the need for, what we all know that we have a need for, and what the administrator pointed out is that we're truly kind of not outside the law, but in a strange place with Massachusetts sheriffs coming here, and we should not be limited by that. And I like the proposal here to keep it inside the 4th of July events. It's a nice way to make sure that we're not overreaching, show success with this, and maybe URI could see, if we're successful with this proposed bill, maybe URI could see success with a much more targeted bill of the same to hit the same goal. So I think it's outstanding. I think it's important, and I think we should support it.
I think it's an important bill. Is there any way to, Chairman, I don't know if the chief knows how to get it unstalled? Or is it just sort of?
From the research that I did and in speaking with the chief and the administrator, it feels like it's too far underwater to come back up. The chief said it was in committee, which is in essence the kiss of death. So things come out of committee, but they typically what was the line we heard at the last meeting? Was it's easier to give birth than it is to raise the dead? Yeah, I think this one might be one of those, so. Mr. Administrator. Yeah,
Can I-
Aaron, go ahead.
Actually, can I ask another
Please,
question
of
real
course you
quick?
can.
Maybe the administrator knows the answer to this one. Which sheriff's department in Massachusetts do we have the agreement with on 4th of July?
Bristol County, I think.
It's Bristol County.
Okay, so it's just the Swansea, Seacon.
New Bedford, Fall River.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll wanna change that.
Well, I got to say, in the sheriff's defense, Councilman Lay, about 10 years ago, the state of Rhode Island, and the public really doesn't know this, 3 days before the parade, they canceled on their staffing for the town. We almost had to cancel the 4th of July. Sheriff Hodgkins stepped up to the plate and came through for us. And he did say, if it's for public safety, we'll be there for you. So I have to say thank you to the sheriff and all those men and women in the Bristol County, Massachusetts. They've helped the residents of Bristol continue their tradition. And if it wasn't for them, it would have been canceled.
Thank you for saying that. The rationale is that they have been an integral part in our celebration. And honestly, the feedback that I get from not only from the visiting officers, but from our own officers is non-existent. That's a positive thing. People don't say, "Oh, they were horrible, they pushed me out." No, they understand the fun of the evening or evenings, because there's a multitude of them. And they're understanding, and in a place where I don't think I'd be as understanding. So hats off to the men and women who do that. And hats off to you, Chief, because I know we've all been part of those celebrations, and the planning before them is tremendous. So having a commitment on a legal end of things would also be outstanding. So in no way am I taking away from our brothers and sisters from Massachusetts. So.
Can I just ask, are we going to still be able to use them since they're willing to come? I mean, the chief talked about it during the budget, how difficult it is to get people to come overtime anyway in the holiday. So, I mean, are we doing this in hopes that we don't have to use Massachusetts, or is that only, or we need both angles because
to bolster?
Yeah, just as, I mean, I'm not exactly clear on this whole thing.
Well, in this case, if we use Rhode Island officers, and if this legislation is passed, the liability, the workers' comp, any claims would be the responsibility of the agency they work for, not the town of Bristol. The agreement with Massachusetts right now, and Mike could maybe chime in on this, because I know the solicitor has done research over the years on it. It's been a gray area. We're very appreciative to them coming here, but at some point in time, I think it's something that we might want to use only Rhode Island officers if we can get this passed.
Do you agree, Mike?
I totally agree. It's ultimately, we need to get this clarified so that every year we don't have this question mark.
So can I just follow up though on this? So if we had a situation, so yes, a lot of it is, you know, kind of keeping the peace, keeping people just moving along, but there is a very serious, as you know, component to this, especially in the day and age we live in. So you're saying that if something happened, something seriously happened, that the taxpayers and another who they're here to work overtime for us, and we're paying them for those that time, correct? But then something happens, and now that will be on their department. That doesn't, I mean, that seems like if somebody was asking that of us, we would sort of be questioning that. You know what I'm saying?
That's what we currently do with the mutual aid. When we're called into another community, the granting agency takes responsibility for the offices.
Can you say that another way? So if Bristol goes to Portsmouth to assist, it's Bristol's responsibility if that officer gets hurt. Is that correct?
Right.
Just trying to say that this is going to expand the concept of mutual aid. Is that what this is doing essentially? And for a special event like this?
Yeah, but you know, in the field, it's understood that a celebration like a parade with such a mix of groups that are there is a potential of serious things that could go wrong. So in that profession, there is an understanding to support your neighboring community. So that I don't think, you're bringing up an issue that I don't think should be a major concern, but it's something that most communities would be willing to bear, I believe.
So,
And they have in the past. For example, Massachusetts, it is a gray area right now. We're trying to resolve that.
so on the issue of, for example, this is great for Bristol. We mentioned URI. But, we have a number of other big events in Rhode Island, such as the Jazz Festival and so forth. In Newport, we have the air show sometimes, so we have the air show. Is that all something that we would be in agreement as well, that if something happened and there was some sort of a very serious attack of some sort, that is something that we would be happy to absorb that cost if something happened to one of our officers?
I think so. It's a two-way street with, between communities. There are times that we get, Bristol would be called to other communities. It's happened within the last year. And when a neighboring community calls, we're such a small state, you have to rely on your neighboring cities and towns. So to answer your question, I don't think it's an unusual ask for us to say, send your personnel and they're working under your payroll and under your community while they're here.
We're reimbursing them that for?
Yeah, obviously we pay for the services.
Okay, so I'm gonna just go back to I know this sounds like a very simple thing, but I'm just going back to my original question. Is this basically in effect then asking for the expansion of the concept of mutual aid? So mutual aid is, there's a tremendously big fire, or there's a gigantic accident, or there's an explosion, or something as simple as there's just so many people that there's no rescue vehicle available. So we're covering the other towns. And so it's always in those, I'm just like in my head thinking like the context is slightly different than coming to celebrate an event. Like the air show is not like a major thing to Rhode Island. It's a big tourist thing. It's a big important economic driver. I'm just going to try to use an issue that's not a Bristol 4th of July issue, but it's not essential to life. You know what I mean? In the same way that making sure that we have fire and rescue protection covering all the towns.
I think the Bristol 4th of July parade would be an event where a neighboring community would say, I'd like to support the Bristol 4th of July celebration. It's important to the state of Rhode Island, and I think that they would volunteer their offices. The air show, I'll be honest, I'm not so sure if Bristol would send officers to the air show, but I think it's a case-by-case decision. There are neighboring communities, maybe South Kingstown, maybe Narragansett might, but Bristol to send a crew of officers there to assume that responsibility, I don't think that would happen. I could, but so I think it's a case-by-case basis, but in a small state, I don't think there's any other way for us to operate safely. You look at the Boston Marathon, that is a plethora of agencies that volunteer their services to make that happen because it's important that that continues. So
we have sent, Rhode Island has sent state police and others to that event. Am I correct?
yes.
So that interstate issue has somehow been resolved, or maybe they haven't thought about it because it's such a critical issue of having the staff there, and even more so after the bombing. So
But I think there's a couple of distinctions, I think, and certainly Chief and Mr. Administrator speak to this, but non-emergency, number one, which I think you've covered that. You gave a great example about the air show, right? But then you were talking about state police, which is of course different than municipal. So the non-emergency part, and then specifically for 4th of July events was what was being allowed in this bill or was proposed there.
So I understand that part, but just so, are they going to be asked if they want to do this for overtime, or are they going to be mandated to do it? And you said they would send a group.
No, what we're asking for is the council to support our request for a resolution to go to the General Assembly so that we can ask for officers from other cities and towns in the state of Rhode Island that all went to the Municipal Police Academy. That pretty much, I think just about all of them use the same insurance carrier. We're asking for them. The training is very much the same as our Bristol officers, what they have. We're asking the council to support this resolution to go to the General Assembly and see if we can make that request to other departments during non-emergency large events here in Bristol, exclusive to the 4th of July celebrations. It would be the concerts, the fireworks, and the parade. We need help.
But I
And
think the
there's,
distinction there is it's a request, it's not a requirement.
yeah, they don't have to, they wouldn't have to come, but I think there are communities, I think our neighboring communities, if there are offices available on a holiday weekend that say, hey, I would like to help out on the 4th of July in Bristol, I think many of them would.
We already had people coming from all over the place over the years in years past. I mean, I didn't know it was limited to just the adjoining towns. And what about like the ACI guards, stuff like that? Haven't we had those people in the past?
No, we have, but that that was eliminated. So they're not, we're looking for the police officers that went to the Municipal Police Academy.
Tony,
Just a brief question. The air show, is that a revenue generating event? I mean, you have to get tickets to go to that?
I think you pay for the, I don't go to it, I'm just using it as an example. I think you pay for the
you went
parking.
way down the road on this.
I
one.
know, I mean, I was just trying not to have a debate about the.
Oh,
4th of
no,
July
no, no, I
committee. I mean,
got you. I got you.
I think you pay for the parking, if I'm not mistaken, as a charitable contribution to, it's like, isn't the Rotary somebody that runs
Yeah,
that? something like that?
just briefly, the reason why I was asking the question is, if it's revenue generating, then they can hire their own private security also. So it would be a little different
Wow.
than the 4th of July, that it's just an open event, you know?
Well, it's just the concept of the, I understand what the words are on paper. I just wanted to understand how this would work in reality and why we weren't already able to do it.
So,
Go ahead.
so the ask here and why this is on the agenda, we're looking for the council to support the resolution and perhaps refer this to our local state reps and ask for also for their support and look for sponsors for it from our local representation.
Which
at
I
the
can't
general
imagine
assembly.
why they wouldn't, so.
Okay.
I'll second.
So we have a motion to approve, and I'm sorry, it's a motion to support the resolution in the bill.
Support the- yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
and submit.
And submit to our reps and staff.
Yes.
And that was
Sorry,
second. Discussion?
we're submitting to reps and senators, which is good.
Other discussion?
That's where the team.
Perfect.
No, but I'm pretty sure that the questions I asked might come up at the hearings of the state house.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is presented by Aaron Lang, and this is in regards to make your own rain barrel. We met on May 1st, 2021.
Well, now we're going to talk about rain barrels and hopefully Mary doesn't have any of those tough questions for me. So
Let me think
um,
about a few, Aaron. Just mean like, let me put my thinking cap on.
I was asked to share this. Yeah, sorry. I was asked to share this with the community by a state rep. And one of the things that before the pandemic last year, there was going to be a rain barrel workshop at the Bristol Parks and Rec. And the pandemic just totally blew that thing out of the water, no pun intended. But this event is going to be on May 1st. Diane Williamson was here talking about the harbor and keeping the harbor clean and everything like that. And one of the things that we can do to keep the harbor clean as individuals, as homeowners, as property owners, is to store our rain in rain barrels. It comes off the roof, it will run off, it sometimes gets dirty, it picks up things along the way and it ends up in a harbor and kind of gets things a little bit messy. And so the other thing too is that, you know, we hear about our water rates raising all the time, increasing all the time. So one of the things that we can do to conserve water is to do this. I don't know if any of you have two boys like I do. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they like to grab that hose and turn it on and play with it a little bit. I'm not going to mind if they decide to do that with rain barrel water. So it'll end up saving a little bit of money. It'll be good for the environment. It ends up costing $38 a barrel, and it's a recycled barrel. They'll teach you how to make them and everything like that. So that's all I have.
Cool.
That's great. Are you going to do a demonstration for us?
I'm going to do this because I was asking my gutter guy about, hey, are you doing more rain barrels?
What do you call a barrel maker? Isn't there a functional name for a barrel maker?
See, now you're asking tough questions.
How do you keep this from becoming a mosquito-borne breeding ground?
I have one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Connected right. to
Just
the
like compost.
house.
Yeah.
But I mean, no,
So
seriously, how do you
real
stop that as
Tony,
being
yours has
like,
red one.
like
Yours
a
has
breeding
red
ground
rain
for
in it.
mosquitoes? Because it's not covered, is it?
Let's do
No, I believe they're covered.
Are they covered?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my understanding
They can-
are
they can
covered.
be,
And then
yeah.
your gutter downspout goes right in, hooks right into the
Yeah.
barrel and just goes right in there.
And then you just put a hose in it to water your flowers or whatever.
But it keeps the mosquitoes out of it. You have to cover, otherwise it's gonna haven for
Well, that's what I was
mosquitoes.
that's what I was asking about, yeah.
I think I know what your question is gonna be. Mr. Chairman, can we receive and file?
That's exactly where I was going.
There we go.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Second.
Motion made by Aaron, seconded by Tony to receive and file. Discussion, a Cooper is a barrel maker. Thank you very much. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is J1, and this is for an RFP 950, and this is for the sale of 10 Naomi Street. The opening was today at noon. We did receive one bid on that, and that was from Garrett Hondo for $250,000.
Mr. Administrator, if you could speak on this, I know that we had a minimum bid, and I know that we went through our normal process or a normal process for selling or potentially selling public land. Could you speak to this and maybe some proposed?
Yeah,
next
the bid wouldn't qualify to be accepted because the minimum was the appraisal amount of 318,000. We had an appraisal company do that, and that was our minimum bid. So what I would ask is that the council consider allowing administration to rebid, and we're going to advertise a little bit further, more regionally and online. We did legal notices, and we assume that there was someone local that would be interested in the property. But I think that the appraisal amount is a very good appraisal for a single family home in Bristol on a 15,000 square foot lot. So we need to have at least 318,000. I would recommend that we go no lower than 318,000 and allow us another process to rebid so that we can do further advertising.
And that's kind of why I said about the public part of it is that I think the people, you and me, who buy houses, right, wouldn't look in the legal section for it. So we went through the right steps as we normally would, but I agree. I think the next step is put a for sale sign, put some advertising out there in normal fashion. The market is insane right now. And it would seem like we should do our due diligence to see what the interests are out there. So I agree.
Are we not, I'm sorry, are we not able to just go to a Realtor to handle it? Or,
Paid by commission.
well, maybe you could get them to agree to no commission as community service. I mean,
Wow, I like the way you think. but-
no, I mean, I'm just asking that question, but somebody had asked me that as well, and I, or at least let them all know that this is for sale. They may have a buyer that is ready to go with, and can't find the right property because it's so hard to find things.
Well, we'll let them know. The problem is, how do we select the agent? And it gets complicated on how we're gonna do that. So we can certainly let them know that this house is for sale. And I think when word gets out a little bit more, I don't think a lot of people knew it was for sale.
Right.
I think we have an opportunity to put it out there again. I saw some pictures from our marketing firm. Our administrator sent them over to me today when we rented out or leased out the property, and hardwood floors had been redone. It's a big lot. It's obviously, I shouldn't say it's obviously, it's right next to the high school fields. So I think it's, yeah, that's right.
How's the garage in the back?
We shored up the roof, we replaced the window, and and we did the roof over also.
So it would seem that we could make a motion to refer to the administrator to take steps as already expressed, including advertising.
Yeah, so do I need to include that we're going to decline the bid?
Mr. Solicitor, could you speak to that?
Yeah, I think you should officially reject the bid and then move on to re-advertise, or include it all in one motion.
Make a motion to decline the bid and refer this item to the town administrator to explore additional marketing options.
Perfect.
Does that work?
Yeah. Second, so motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is J2, and this is for bid 951, and this is for the State Street Dock Marina Fueling Facility. We also only received one bid for this, and that was from Regan Marine Construction LLC in the amount of $464,030 total base bid price, and $193,420 for an alternate one bid price.
Could you help me understand why there's two there? Or just give me clarity there?
Is Greg on? Greg Marcelli?
I'm on, Steve. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
So, good evening. When we went out to bid for the fuel dock, we wanted to see what it would cost. One for the land side separate, so the pumps, the tank, and the piping. And then we wanted to see what the water side would cost, to see if we should just do it as a town in increments, as of having the piles punched, us, my department building the docks, that kind of stuff. So that's why we went that route. Our estimation from PAR on the project was $350,000 to have it done. So I haven't talked to the town administrator yet or the treasurer, but we quite possibly probably need to go back out to bid.
Well, as been said many, many times, when a single bid comes in, because it's a single bid, we have the opportunity to negotiate and take a look at what we ask for, and see if we can get up better. So maybe at this point, we can refer, unless there's objection, we refer to the administrator to act in the best interest of the town. And if need be, we can go back out to bid.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to decline the current bid and refer to the harbor master and the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
I don't think we have to
Does that work?
decline it. I
We don't
don't think
have
we
to-
decline it. We
need to
just,
decline this one.
they can
Just-
negotiate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the motion from
Take
Tony
Tony's
and
motion,
then
reject
seconded. I am rejecting, solely rejecting. Rejecting it utterly.
Decline my motion.
The clerk just wrote down, he just rejected it utterly. What's that? Can I get a second? All right, so motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to refer to the administrator. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is J3, and this is appropriation from the town council contingency account for the expenses relating to the remaining balance of the municipal court bailiff uniforms.
So the quick story on this is that typically, well, the clerk's department has a $200 line item for shirts, such and so forth. And John Ferreira is our new bailiff, and he's taken the position to, we'll call it the next level, and asked to get the next level in regards to clothing on it and badge. And I worked with the administrator and then the police chief to bring it to the next level. So this would not be a yearly cost. This is initial cost because of honestly an increase in professionalism there. So so the remaining after $200 is proposed to come out of council contingency. I did speak with Julie just to make sure that we had the funds there, and this is easily covered by our current contingency line item. Okay.
So we're not in the poorhouse.
We are not in the poorhouse. No, John did not put us in the poorhouse.
So moved.
There, motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And the last item on the agenda is from K1. This is Alan Klepper, the Barrington Director of the Bristol County Water Authority, for the monthly report for April.
Motion made by Tim to receive and file, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, that's it. Just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. So motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.